Hey,
Cathy,
Carmen, let me see if I can turn my light on. Hang on.
welcome everyone to the live launch for the book Practice of the Presence. Cathy, it's so good to be here with you. This is my good friend Cathy Payne Anderson, and we're both delighted to have you all joining us.
Oh, sorry, my stand's not working with me. Hang on.
That's okay. We got plenty of time to adjust. Everybody, we're so glad that you're here. I'm Carmen Acevedo Butcher. I had the joy recently of translating Brother Lawrence's Practice of the Presence. I did not know that this morning that I would get up and get to listen to a black hole. You know, anybody else out there listen to the black hole this morning? It was really beautiful. And also to see the Webb telescope photographs of Jupiter. And that this evening I would be on live IG. So a big shout out to Emily, Claire, Schmidt-Barros for all teaching. I'm telling you, I've learned so much from you, Emily. And a big shout out to my friend Cathy, who is a board certified health chaplain. So we're so glad that y'all are joining us. We're going to have a book giveaway towards the end, and we're not going to be here but for just 30 minutes or so. We're like a butterfly lighting on your hand or something, and we're just so happy you're here. We want to tell you and share a few exciting things about the book. One of them includes the Women's Prison Association, and we want to tell you why we think you would like to be interested in this 1600s friar. So we're gonna start with a couple of quotes, just because I'm an old English major. And these two quotes kind of sum up Brother Lawrence. He was a discalced Carmelite friar. So in other words, he was a student of Teresa of Avila and of Juan de la Cruz, or Juan of the Cross, John of the Cross, who have been translated brilliantly by my friend Mirabai Starr. Check those out. And he, by embodying their teachings and developing new ones, he really does transcend his tradition. And Aldous Huxley said, everybody from all faith traditions and wisdom traditions, and those even not interested in such, love Brother Lawrence because he's down to earth. He's authentic. So I'm trying to be as authentic as Brother Lawrence, even though live IG is new for me, you might have known. Hey, Molly. I'm so glad to see y'all. Okay, so here are the two quotes, and then in a minute we're going to have a couple of questions, and we will have some singing too from one of my favorite writers. So the first quote is from Howard Thurman at Spelman in Atlanta in 1980. Hey, Mary, Dr. Mary. I want to first of all, I want to have a shout out to all the launch team members who are here and all the readers who are here. My friend Mary and Molly and so many others who have joined. And Bonnie and Lama, Yeshe, Rose, so many wonderful friends here. That's been the best thing about this book. This book, Practice of the Presence, is all about friendship. So like Cathy and I have been friends for about 15 years now. We're not counting though, are we, Cathy?
No.
Anyway, back to the quote. Howard Thurman said at the baccalaureate at Spelman in Atlanta, there is in you something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. Now, there is something in everybody that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in other people. Can you find a way to hear the sound of the genuine in yourself? This has been something I've been trying my whole life to do. And a big shout out to my students at Cal, because they're always saying, you do you and be authentic. And because of them, this translation is different for me, because I'm trying to translate for them as well as for people my age and above. I used to just translate for them. The second quote is by Sasha Geffen, and a colleague shared with me about glitter up the dark. And Brother Lawrence is so beyond binaries. He is a true mystic. He doesn't live along the dualistic path. He lives in the beyond all of that path, sort of like the Rumi. Beyond, you know, good and bad, there's a field, I'll meet you there. And this quote opens powerfully Sasha Geffen's book. The gender binary cannot really be broken because the gender binary has never been whole, which I think is just Absolutely beautiful. And I want to mention one more thing before we go into a song and then into a couple of questions. And if y'all have questions, you can send them too. The first thing is that proceeds from each of these practices of the presence, proceeds, 10% of the proceeds goes directly from Broadleaf, the publisher, over to the Women's Prison Association. And they have been in partnership with women who are involved with the systems and experiencing incarceration since 1845. They're an amazing nonprofit. So you not only do you get to read about how to be calmer, how to be kinder, which is something I want also, but money goes directly from the proceeds to the Women's Prison Association. They're in the New York City in the East Village. So check them out. They're all over social media. And Rebecca and everybody there, we love you. And I worked at a maximum security prison one summer, and that really convinced me of the need for reform and for humanity to really change our ways to be kind and helpful. So I'm going to sing Cadmus Hymn, and then we're going to go into something interesting like the questions. And as y'all can tell, I'm trying to learn how to do this. Emily told me be authentic, but I'm not sure how you're supposed to be authentic when all the speeches you've ever given and the class you teach with your friend John Levine, it all has to do not with live IG. So I just don't know how you do this, Cathy. But I wanted to thank Cathy for being in this boat with me. And I also want to give a shout out to Lil Copan for being the most amazing editor and for teaching me how to write with fragments, among many other things. So this is Cadman's Hymn. And the reason that I'm singing Cadman's Hymn is because he sort of starts out modern spirituality for Christians, but it's also in that sort of vein of anybody could enjoy it because it's all about love and creation is sacred. And I really hope we can get back to creation as being valued as sacred. So egrets for egret's sake and not egrets for we could put a parking lot there. So this is a song praising creation. And I sing it a lot because I have always lived with severe anxiety and some childhood trauma, and this helps me. And Brother Lawrence comes from this tradition, so we're going to celebrate. One of the reasons I sing is because I get nervous, and also because I'm joyful, because this book has been all about meeting up with old friends again and meeting new friends who feel like old friends. So here we go. Every time we sing it, it's new, right? It's a very short hymn, so don't go away. Nushulon heriayen, Nushulon heriayen, Nushulon heriayen, Nushulon heriayen, heaven reaches wired, may a toad smash day on this moja thunk. Werk wilder fader, swach he wonder je was, etche drishta, no horon stelde. He add a ship earth and Bernum heaven to rofa, halik shipand. Midden Jermon kunnen swear dat je driste en efter her tail da vier folden. Freya almistisch, Freya almistisch, Freya almistisch. And just to let you know, I made up the tune because back in the 8th century, they didn't have live IG or any kind of recording devices. So I just want to say another big thank you to everybody for being so supportive. Who would think that a friar from the 1600s, although he's been popular for 3 centuries, who would think that he would live again in such a vibrant way for us? I'm really grateful. So Cathy, go, whatever you got, my friend.
Whatever I got, anything.
Thank you again for being here on this. I have never done, if anybody can't tell, I have never done live IG before.
But here we are doing live IG together.
Yeah.
Carmen, I think I told you that Brother Lawrence was in my gateway drug into the mystics when I first started reading them. I've loved Brother Lawrence as an old friend. And so when I saw that you, my also old, longtime friend, not old, were doing a new translation, I was very, very excited. So I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. And I have questions. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Why this project and why now? And I heard you say you had your students in mind when you were writing it. So tell me about that. Why this, why now, why them?
Okay, so I would like to say that I had a grand plan, but I've never had a grand plan. It's more make it up as you go along. So it's all about friendship. So Brother Lawrence was only published, he lived a hidden life. He was sort of like the anti-IG influencer, or anti-social media influencer. He lived a deliberately hidden life, and he published nothing during his lifetime on purpose. So when he died in 1691, his friend Joseph, who was 20 years younger than he was, all the friends said, can we not have something from Brother Lawrence? Because we miss him, and his writings helped us to be calmer and to grow in love. So Joseph started poking around. He was a priest, kind of a high-level religious guy. And he was poking around in Paris, because this is all taking place in the land of, lovely Paris. And he found letters of Brother Lawrence's and some spiritual maxims. So he decided to publish them. Otherwise, we would have never heard of Brother Lawrence, because he was uneducated. He was in the 98% of people with no privilege, and he was disabled war veteran. He limped in pain his whole life. So similarly, I didn't wake up one morning and think I'll translate Brother Lawrence. Not at all. I am totally like a make it a day at a time kind of person. And my friend Lil, over the years, we did some books about 15 years ago, and she kept saying, would you like to talk about books? And I just didn't have the bandwidth, because my father died. We moved from Georgia to California. I had to find a job. And thank you again, college writing programs, for taking me in, and all my friends there. Such wonderful colleagues and friends who I learned so much with and from. And then about in March, I guess it was, or April of 2020, I got a message in my social media saying, hey, you want to talk books? And it was time. So I said, sure, Lil, let's meet up. And Lil is an ideas person in addition to being a creative painter. And she gave me about 40 ideas for things that could be translated. And Cathy, at the very end, she goes, oh, and there's Brother Lawrence. And just something in me went tug, like with Cloud of Unknowing. And that was it. And then I didn't know if his theology would be healthy enough to spend time with, because I really would not have been able to translate it if it wasn't like healthy and loving and inclusive. And it was even more than I had suspected, because I had only read him in translation and only snippets before. And I know that's kind of ironic to say I'd only read him in translation, but I'd never read him with the translation and the original. So I went to the National Library of France. This is very democratic, right? Free access to the original books. And so really it was because my friend Lil mentioned it, and also because translation heals me. And I find parts of myself uncovered, because I've always gone out to nature like Mary Oliver for healing. And because the trees are just, the trees are the thing. And so I started translating and discovering, oh my goodness, he's not at all what I thought.
Wow.
He is calmer, kinder, more real. He's actually so real that you can almost smell the stinky sandals he repairs. And you can almost see him upset in the kitchen sometimes when he's at first really struggling to, he says he has Joseph says he has an aversion, that's the word, for kitchen work. And, kitchen work back then was really a woman's work. So, and kitchen work is like messy and people eat, but he was cooking for 100 brothers, and he learned to do it with love. So his prayer was attached to his everyday work. So I fell in love with the friar because I was translating during the beginning of COVID. And you remember, Cathy, because you were in the hospital, and you were in the thick of it. And it was such an eerie time. There were no cars on the road, and there were just birdsong. And Brother Lawrence's calmness was like a hug or a blanket. It was just so reassuring that it was unbelievable, really. So I wanted to bring that. I wanted to get out of the way and bring that accurately, faithfully, as my friend Mirabai Star says, accurately, faithfully, and also completely, because I'd never found Brother Lawrence outside the critical edition. I'd never found a complete Brother Lawrence for a wide-ranging audience, and I wanted to try to do that.
Well, I'm just going to say I think you did. I think I told you I had a hard time reading the book because I wanted to stop on every page and hang out with that thought. Right? I didn't want to go on to the next page because it's always been true of him. But there's something about your I think I used the word earthiness, like there's just this this flavor, this sense to the way you translated him that I really love. So here's my next question. You made an editorial choice to use they, them pronouns for God rather than he, him, or what I've always done, which is always, since I learned that I should, just use the word God, which is so awkward in writing.
Yeah.
And to say that word over and over again.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. And I want to say hey to my friend Kim, who's put messages in. You know, I deal with dyslexia, and live IG is definitely interesting
Challenge,
way to approach life. I'm so glad everybody's here. Well, so that's a really good question, because just like with, I didn't wake up one morning and think I'll translate Brother Lawrence. I also didn't wake up and think I would do that. Here's the interesting thing. A lot of people have found that relatable and have, I mean, I was working at the Mystic Summit, and a lot of people put in the live chat, wow, this really means a lot. I mean, I feel seen by my favorite Brother Lawrence. I'm gay. You know, and it's just, the way it happened though was that when I was translating Brother Lawrence, the rough draft, you know, it really takes about 1.5 years or 2 years to do a full translation, even of a short book for me anyway. And I at first was like, how can I translate this accurately and completely, but also to represent his inclusivity, because he doesn't talk about sin and saint. He talks about we stumble and there's love and we can atone with great wisdom and seriousness. And so he wasn't at all a binary, dualistic perspective mindset person. And I loved that about him. He wasn't this or that. He was
Right.
this and that and the other, you know. So since I was raised in churches that were a lot about dogma, that this really is healing for me. And so also the thing is, I had difficulty being raised in evangelical churches. I had difficulties also because of some childhood trauma. God is he. And I was talking with Rabbi Rami Shapiro, and he said something similar to me not long ago. He was like, yeah, I just, you know, God the Father, I'm not really that interested in. And it's not, he means it out of hand, but like for me, I had a hard time relating to God with the masculine because of some trauma. And I don't think I'm alone, because other people have said similar things, but it took me a long time to actually realize this about myself. So I started thinking of God as she, you know, there's Juliana Norwich, but neither of those quite worked for me. And so I just kind of went because I also for healing have friends, you know, who are Buddhist, and friends who are from all different faiths and different wisdom traditions. And my Buddhist friends, you know, really helped me to see that I could approach it from just a totally different perspective, you know, take sort of the perspective of a personal God, you know, out of it. So that helped me too, focusing on this Zen, this peace, this letting go, and understanding like dukkha, understanding suffering from a different perspective. So I told Lil when we finally met, and I finally told her, because I hadn't told her I would translate it because I wasn't sure I could. And then when we met up about 3 months later, I said, well, I've translated it, but I just didn't know what to do with the he pronoun for God. Everything else is so accurate, faithful as I can do it. But I just, you know, I feel so left out when it's just he. Mm-hmm. And, but you know, you don't get everything you want as a translator. So I just gave up on that idea. That was August the 2nd. I looked at the notes today because Lil asked me about them. And the next morning I got up and there at my computer, and I'm not a woo-woo type of person. I'm more the type of person who washes the dishes, goes for walks, and tries to get students' essays graded within a week. But I got up the next morning and there was they at the computer. Now, you know, I have people I love. I have students who identify with they. I have colleagues, friends, and you know, they continually feel excluded from different aspects of society and life. And religion is supposed to be about kindness and love. And all wisdom traditions are about kindness and love. So I thought the other cool thing about it is Brother Lawrence's lived Trinitarian theology actually is is represented well by this they. themselves. So that and the inclusivity for my students was my first thought, and the fact that I feel more comfortable with it. Now, I want to quickly add that I'm not saying I think everybody should do this. I have friends who translate, and sometimes they'll put he on one page when the divinity is there and she on another page. You know, and I heard interesting stories come about because of this, Cathy. Somebody shared with me, a friend of mine shared with me, how they heard of someone, a woman in her 80s, who was going to sing God in a play and didn't feel comfortable just representing God with her voice, so asked her husband to join in, and so they sang together. And so they kind of had this. So I just think whenever you get beyond this binary, that really does make a complexity that's beautiful and more realistic, right? More like real life, more relatable, as the students say. Yeah.
I feel like in my reading, that one thing, that one choice expanded my understanding of God in that context, right? It wasn't taking anything away from God as he, and I don't have trauma with God as he. I grew up with God as he, and I'm fine with it. But I also understand that that is a very narrow picture of who God is, and the ability to expand past that was really just freeing and life-giving, and I loved it. I think it was the right choice.
I'm so thankful, because it really, can I say, I spent a lot of my time as an adult trying to, first of all, get through dyslexia and be able to function. But then after that, sort of protecting myself with my intellect. Not that I have this, but it just was easier to be in my head than it was to be in my heart. So the odd thing, or the cool thing, or the weird thing, or the unusual thing about that quote choice was that it wasn't so much at all something I thought about. It was just something that came from my gut. And I don't really know where it came from, but all I know is that it brings me joy too. And it brings my friends and others joy. So that makes me happy.
Okay. So on to the next question.
I'm ready.
I have a favorite quote. I have lots of favorite quotes, but narrowing it down. Brother Lawrence said, "I no longer believe, but I see and experience." And that struck me as kind of a thesis statement for how he was just living his life. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I love that because I was raised where you had to get your thinking right. That was emphasized, like the dogma of it. If you could just get your mind to a certain point of understanding things, then you were right with the divinity. And it didn't have as much to do, or at least the way it was explained to me, with real life and being kind. And as I got older, I was very much wanting to try to find a way of kindness, and also a way where I didn't have to avoid my life. You know, the grief and the heartache and the places I stumble, the places I need to grow, the ways I need to learn how interconnectedness works in friendships, and, you know, just the whole thing of being human. And I know Paula Darcy says that God, or divinity, or however you want to think of it, comes to us disguised as your life. And to me, Brother Lawrence takes that to the I don't know, he embodies it. He experiences his faith to the point where everything he did was prayer. Because I will say, in the church where I was raised, there was one verse that said, "Pray without ceasing." And that, when you start searching that through all the faiths and wisdom traditions, that kind of mindfulness is, everybody's caught by that. Everybody's like, "Oh, can I do that?" And I remember my mother telling me when I was a kid, "You just need to turn your mind off." And I was like, how would I do that? Because when you start trying to do that, you start watching yourself try to turn your mind off. And this is like, it never stops. And Brother Lawrence found a way to return to love as he stirred the soup, as he mended the sandal, and when life wasn't perfect. And he says in these conversations with the divine, or however one thinks of the divine, however that is, that you just can say whatever's on your mind. So it might be gratitude. And he says, you might be surprised what happens in these conversations. And I can honestly say, I can attest to that. People would wonder sometimes if they could hear my conversations. I don't know that they would fit into the quote prayer category, but they work for me. So yeah, that's a great question. Brother Lawrence is so genuine. He's so kind. The only people, they say that people from all different backgrounds and with different opinions all loved him. So I love that about, don't we need more of that today?
Yeah.
Where we could get people in the same room who
Yeah.
don't quite agree, but they're talking. And he was very kind-hearted, so much so that Joseph says the only people he didn't really cozy up to were the people with inflated understandings of themselves. Which
I love that.
which I kind of love too. You know, that he wasn't just being nice to everybody; he also had his limits. So yeah, that's a great question.
Thanks. Okay, so I have one more, but I'm worried, Emily. Do we have enough time for one more question? She didn't say no. We're going to take that for a yes.
Okay, Emily, tell us. Emily, pull the plug if you need to.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll make it short.
Okay, so I think one of the things that struck me, and I think I've already used this phrase, is kind of the earthiness of it, the really connected to life and to every day. My favorite Brother Lawrence image is picking up straw for God. That's the thing that stuck with me for the last 35 years, is that it doesn't matter, you know, what I'm doing it with God. You chose to translate something he said that I have never read in any other translation.
Oh, I know,
you know
where we're going with that.
Don't you?
I bet I do.
It's the wet nurse image, right? God is a wet nurse.
Yeah.
Like going to the breast to get nourishment.
Yeah.
Which, honest to goodness, I've read this book a lot of times, and I never got that from the other translations. So tell me about deciding to do that and what it means to you.
Well, so first of all, my goal was to translate something. So if somebody like, you know, my heroes in my mind, somebody like Martin Laird or Bernard McGinn read it, they would be like, she didn't leave anything out. So that was my first goal, was just to be thorough and respectful to Brother Lawrence and to Joseph, his friend. So when I came across where he said, what he actually says is, sometimes when he's practicing the presence and returning to love in his mindfulness, if you want to put it that way, in his meditative, mini, M-I-N-I, or many, M-A-N-Y, many meditative moments, when he's returning to love, he says that he feels as if he is latching on, it's so sweet, he feels like he's latching on to the breasts of the nurse. And it's nurse, it's not mother. So sometimes translators change that to mother, and sometimes they change breast, which is memeles, to bosom. That's really not as, it's just not what it says. And I was reading it and going, oh my. And then if you look at the quietist difficulties, I imagine that Brother Lawrence used this image a lot. We don't have all of his letters remaining because he wasn't quote anybody, you know, in his day.
Right.
He wasn't a Francois Fenelon, who we have like hundreds and hundreds of letters for. But I imagine that he used it many more times than just that once to the spiritual director. And I think it's beautiful. Excuse me, partly because I have breastfed, and you know, we had to have the nurse out to help us because it just doesn't automatically happen. And it's a very intimate experience. It's both beautiful and also sometimes frustrating, just the way any kind of, because it's an embodied form of communication, right? Yeah. Okay. And then it's also an embodied form of communication that is nourishing. So I think it's a beautiful image. And when you start looking at others who are writing in this period, they use this image a lot. It's not unusual. So I love it. The other aspect of it is it's tied to his society. And a lot of the women in the 1% who would have babies, they didn't want to breastfeed because it took them away from balls. And, you know, it kind of does things to your body and stuff. And so they would send their babies out to the countryside to women there, part of the 98%, to breastfeed their babies. And think about it, Brother Lawrence may have seen that when he was working as a footman, or he may have even seen his mother do it, because she would not have been a privileged woman herself. So I think it is an absolutely beautiful image. And also people who have supported people who are breastfeeding appreciate this image, because, you know, if you've ever been there when the baby does finally, when the mother and the baby work it out and the baby just has that little bit of milk on their lip, there's just nothing more real. There's nothing more real. I mean, it's both exhausting and beautiful. So it's like the smelly sandals kind of. So yeah, that's what I love about him, is that he has this earthiness. He really does. You put it perfectly. Yeah.
All right. That's my whole list. So there you go.
Oh, my friend Kim is here. Also, many of my friends from college writing programs. I'm so glad to see y'all. Yay. I'm so excited So, Emily, we're going to have, I got my notes here because I don't want to miss anything. The book giveaway. And Emily has a magical hat picker. And so, Emily, do you want to put in there, Emily, something about in the chat about how your people just need to, thank you, John. So good to see you here, John. These are definitely ideas for the public speaking course. So let me see. Emily, how do you want to do the picking of the book? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign 3 books. And Emily is Eclair Drama. She is a becoming famous, already famous, NYC, New York City.
Yeah, we can
see you. We can see you, Emily. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you for coming, everybody. So, yeah, we can see you chatting, Emily. So we're going to have a live drawing, and I'm going to mail you a book. That's how it works, really. So thank you for coming, and hope that you'll enjoy it. Ah, Pachua. Thank you, Pachua. You see me, Pachua? Yeah, we can see you, Emily. I'm so glad to see Pachua, one of my public speaking students from Cal. I'm so proud of you, all of you. Okay, so Emily's picking 3 names. We see you, Emily, but I'm just going to read it. Melody wants to be picked. Melody's my friend from high school days. And Anna, love you too, Anna. Anna's my friend from Rome. Oh, Hope. Hope is one of my former students from Georgia. Laurie. Laurie is my oldest friend. Not as in she's 80, just my oldest friend. Laurie is definitely younger than me. Thank you, Caroline. Yeah, didn't Cathy ask great questions? Okay, so the first one is Hope. So Hope, you're going to DM, or Emily's going to DM you, Hope. Thank you, Caroline.
Yay.
And Caroline's got a book coming out soon. Practice the pause. So I'm going to get that in. The second is awesome. Oh, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to, yeah, these are awesome. People I met teaching in the Shift Network for the Brother Lawrence course. Awesome. This is exciting. So one more. Emily, you're magical. Emily, you are magical. Yeah, Hope, I'm so happy that we connected this way, Hope. And Hope is an amazing librarian, I just want you to say. And the final one is, drum roll, please. Hey, Gilda. I'm so glad to see you here, Gilda. Thank you, Caroline. Awesome. I'm so glad everybody figured out. I had so many people asking me how to get on Insta. And believe you me, I was asking other people how you do it. And then I just tried it. Okay, so I don't know the last person. Oh, Pachua, that's your boyfriend. This is awesome. Okay, so that's Pachua's boyfriend, Pachua Laura. Pachua, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. What's his name, Pachua, if I may ask, if you don't mind, if you don't mind sharing? I'm so happy too, Hope. I've seen him on. So hopefully, Pachua, you tell me his name and I will sign him. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everybody. So I'm going to end us with a song that I sometimes, oh, awesome. Okay, so I will definitely, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Pachua, but I would like to learn so you can teach me. This is awesome. Another opportunity, Pachua, for you and for our paths to cross. I'm so happy.
That's
Pachua
exciting.
is amazing. So Pachua, I'm going to sing a song. What'd you say?
I was just going to ask, Pachua, is that a Hmong name? Sean?
Yes, it is. Yes? It is. Because she gave speeches on her background and everything and helped us all become Hmong experts.
I don't know if you know, Carmen, I worked with a Hmong congregation in Atlanta right out of college.
That's awesome. I did not know that. See there, Pachua?
There you go. All right.
Cathy knows things. Okay, so I know that y'all are being so sweet to hang out here. Thank y'all for making my first, did I just say first time on live IG?
I heard it.
That might have been a misspeak. But thank y'all, everybody. Again, thank you to everybody who came. And I just want to give another shout out to everybody I work with at Cal in the college writing programs, because y'all mean so much to me. Thanks for giving me a home and friendships so much. And Molly, thank you for sticking with me. So I'm going to sing one last song that I often sing when I'm driving to Berkeley. And the traffic is the kind of traffic that makes you think you've never meditated in your life. You know, that kind of traffic. And it's from a friend of mine. Yeah, you know, Cathy, because I
live in Atlanta. So, yeah,
yeah, you know. So the thing is, I have this absolutely one of my best friends is a Buddhist monk, and we're often talking about different scriptures and such. And so we were talking about there are several of them that I really love. And so then I set them to some music, and I sing them sometimes 100 or more times on the way to Berkeley, not just wrote over and over, but really trying to think about the words. And I still sometimes give those little but anyway, so it's a work in progress. And here's how it goes. I think it's a really wonderful thing to be able to sing. So it goes like this. It's very simple. It's about gratitude, and it fits with Brother Lawrence's love of being grateful, and other people I love who are wise, like my mom. So it goes. I am gratitude. I am gratitude. The present moment is my true self, and I am whole right now. I am here. I am here. I am gratitude. And something about it is kind of like natural breath work. So thank y'all so much for joining me and for being so supportive of practice of the presence and for helping Brother Lawrence come blinking into the 21st century. And thank you, Cathy, so much. And thank you again to the launch team and all the readers, those of you who really helped birth this book. I can't thank you enough. It's been such a joy. The friendships have been, I don't know, it's all worth it, isn't it, Cathy?
It is. It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, John. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank y'all for coming. And Pachu, I'll get that book out to your boyfriend. And also in the process, we will text or whatever, and I'll find out how you pronounce his name because it's such a beautiful name. Thank y'all. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you, Lama, Yeshe, Rose. Thank you, everybody.